Where was I? Oh, yes. Welcome, friends. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Camp Meetings. We're going to try this again. I'm Reverend Nate Melcher of Richfield United Methodist Church, and this season it is Lent in a tent. However, clearly I'm not in a tent. The last two episodes were shot in a tent in my office in our church building, and now we are doing our best to work from home as much as possible. So I do have my kids' dome tent just over there. However, for tonight's episode, I'm going to be up against this wall here. Now, it's a cool wall. My spouse, Kelly, painted this wall of my home study essentially chroma key green. Now I can make this be whatever I want. So, for example, if we want this to be at a campsite, there. Now we have our very own tent. So, there, it's done. Hey, nice marmot. That's great. Or let's say we don't want to go so rustic. We want to maybe pick a really nice, maybe a nice hotel. That'd be really good for us. So, no. Let's not do a hotel. Let's not do a hotel. I'm going to go ahead and change that. And goodbye, girls. We're going to go right back to this. I think this will be just fine for tonight's purposes. So, all right. Friends, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with a little bit of singing here. This is a song called They Will Know We Are Christians by Our Love. It's a simple song with simple lyrics that you can find pretty easily, or you can catch on pretty easily too. Here we go. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. And we'll guard each one's dignity and save each one's pride. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. All praise to our Maker, from whom all things come, and all praise to Christ Jesus, God's only Son, and all praise to the Spirit who makes us one. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. By our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. That's important, friends. Here we go. I'm going to set that aside and sit down my ukulele. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to share a screen here to offer you a couple different pieces that we're going to have besides just me on the screen. Slideshow view show from the beginning. Here we are, Camp Meetings. Let's go ahead and take a moment to do some prayer. And this is the breakthrough prayer of our church. And all of us are welcome to pray it in whatever words are meaningful for you. We hope that you are finding prayer in your lives to be meaningful in this time. Will we pray together? Loving God of all, renew our hearts and minds. Reveal your wildest dreams. Break through to each of us. Unite us in your vision. Equip us for your work. Transform us by your song. Create our harmony. May we embrace your future and be your loving church. Amen. A few items to start us off here. This is what the Gmail inbox looks like when it is completely empty. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm usually pretty good at having a zero inbox. However, in these new times, I'm getting a lot more email than usual. And when I don't have a zero inbox, wow, it stresses me out. So at the end of the episode, I want to let you know how many unread emails I still have in my inbox. I keep checking them and they still keep coming. So you can make your guess in the comments during the show and we'll see if anybody's right on that. So there we go. I got to tell you, friends, I am a little stressed here, but you know, it's a stressful time. And I have something here that has been helpful for me. This here is a stress stick. I got this from the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, and you can see them at gbhem.org. gbhem.org, gbhem.org. And it is a stress stick. So it's got rubber on it, and it has a wire inside, so you can bend it, and you can twist it. And it's just kind of one of those stress relievers, you know, like popping bubbles, bubble wrap, that kind of thing. And it's really helpful because, I don't know about you, but these days it feels like things are just a little more stressful than usual. I mean, I've always had a lot of plates spinning, and sometimes I use the analogy that it's like the gravy spilling over the plate. But these days there's just so much going on, and I try not to be tense, but you know, the stress can just really get to you. So thank you, GBHEM, for this stress stick. It's been really helpful. You know, we're all a little bit stressed these days, and acknowledging it can really help. So let's just say it. You know, I'm stressed, you're stressed, even the light bulbs are a little burnt out. That was tonight's Sneak Attack Pun. Sneak Attack Puns are not officially brought to you by Stanley Tools. Stanley, they really measure up. If you would like to suggest a pun that we could use as a Sneak Attack Pun in a future episode, go ahead and leave your favorite pun in the comments. I can't wait to read them. I think I should probably take a little hand sanitizer break here. It's important to have hand sanitizer at all times. That's really good. And that's not hand sanitizer. But I'm feeling very moisturized. Okay, that'll do. We talked a little bit about stress, and I want to look at some examples from the Bible on do's and don'ts when it comes to managing stress. There are a few people in the Bible where stress, it just escalates very quickly for them. And I thought those might be some examples of what not to do. And I want to share those with you here. Let me get my screen back up to show that to you. So here's 3 examples of where stress just kind of escalated quickly for people in the Bible. So this is a character named Haman, or a person named Haman in the story of Esther. And he's in the court, and Mordecai is definitely not in the court of the king. Let's see what happens. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, there's a vocab word, Haman was infuriated. But he thought it beneath him to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So having been told who Mordecai's people were, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. Well, that escalated quickly. I think Haman got a little stressed and maybe took it up a couple notches too high. Last week, we looked at the story of Jonah, and I hope that you read it since then. It's just 4 very short chapters. You could probably read it in 10 minutes or less. And long story short, spoiler alert, by the end of the story, chapter 4, Jonah's upset with God because at first Jonah didn't want to help God. And then Jonah decided, okay, I do want to be there with God. And then he went out and helped God in chapter 3. And by chapter 4, once all the people who were his enemies had decided, yes, we're going to obey God, he's not happy. Here's what Jonah says. Jonah says, oh, Lord, is not this what I said while I was still in my own country? That's why I fled to Tarshish at the beginning, for I knew that you were a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and astounding in steadfast love, and ready to relent from punishing. And now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it's better for me to die than to live. Just to make sure I'm clear, Jonah, you're stressed out so much because you're mad that God's forgiving, and so you just want out. That's also escalating a little quickly with the stress. And let's see, one more. This is from the prophet Elisha, and he is just essentially taken over from the prophet Elijah. And this is one of the first things he does. This is from 2 Kings chapter 2, verses 23 through 24. Elisha, went up there to Bethel, and while he was going up on the way, some small boys came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, bald head! Go away, bald head!" When he turned around and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 she-bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. Wow. Talk about what not to do on the first day of your new job. So that scripture, by the way, is a good scripture for youth directors everywhere. Here's the thing, friends. When it comes to stress, there's stress and there's peace. And I want to talk about a phrase called peace be with you. We are almost at Easter and the resurrection. And given the state of the world, I don't think it's too early to talk about Easter quite yet. So I'm going to go for it, because at Easter, there is this very key moment in the Gospel of John, in John 20, where Jesus appears, the resurrected Christ appears to the disciples. And the first thing he says to them is, "Peace be with you." And they're just so astonished that he's there. And he says again, "Peace be with you." And then later, when Thomas is with them, after, they said, "Well, I can't believe," or it's just, "I want to see the same way that you saw," rather. When Jesus appears again, he says, "Peace be with you." Now, there's a lot going on in that story, but I don't want to lose that phrase, because in that time and place, it was a very common greeting to say, "Peace be with you." It's like, think of the most common ways that you say hello now. Hello, or hi, sup, yo, whatever you say, that's so common that you don't even think about it. Your most common salutation. Well, what we could all use right now, what we can have in common, is peace. Peace that's so common you don't even have to think about it. So friends, peace be with you. And may you share the peace of God with all whom you encounter, and in all the ways that you do, whether it's in person or virtual. All right, friends, I want to bring my next guest in here. I'm going to ask him to start his video and unmute him. There he is. And I believe if I do this, he'll give us a gallery view, so we're side by side. Pastor Rich, can you hear me?
I can, Nate.
And I can hear you. Okay. Friends, let's see. Where's my sheet? My guest tonight is the senior pastor of Brooklyn United Methodist Church on Brooklyn Boulevard in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Friends, welcome our friend, Reverend Rich Zeck. Hello, Rich. How are you?
I'm good, Nate.
Good. Thank you so much for being here tonight and for sticking with us through some technical hiccups, but here we are. The reason I asked Rich to be on tonight is about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, when we were in the midst of just understanding some of the stakes that were going to be happening here in Minnesota when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were on a Zoom call with our MCCI clergy cohort, and you had mentioned that if it looks like we're going to maybe not be able to worship in person on Easter in 2020, that's not something that is a stranger to you. You've done that before. You said that you've had at least, I can't remember if it was 2 Easters where you were not able to worship in person with your church. Can you tell us a little bit about that so that we can kind of, what was your experience? What happened?
Well, I was a senior pastor at First United Methodist Church in Fargo, Nate, and in 2009 and 2010, the Red River decided to have its 100-year flood. It was bad. Yeah. And it got so that all family members who could not help sandbag were told to get out of town. My family, all but my eldest son, he was in middle school at the time, they all left. And within 10 minutes of them getting out, I-29 was closed due to floodwater. So they got out. But so the town was pretty much empty, but the National Guard took to the streets, and it was illegal to be on the streets unless you were sandbagging. And all of this happened at the end of Lent and Holy Week. And lo and behold, we were not allowed to have Easter worship. That was 2 Sundays or 2 years in a row we didn't do that. Then we had a year off where the red only flooded a little. And then a third year, it happened again in 2012. And again, we didn't have Easter Sunday.
So first of all, that sounds like a horrifying experience overall. I've never personally experienced being in the midst of a town experiencing a flood. And I know that many people in the Fargo Moorhead area and people we're connected to have, and I hear it's just a nightmare to experience. But on top of that, it sounds really terrible to not be able to gather with your church, period, but much less for Easter. What did that feel like? Because my hunch is that many churches are going to be experiencing Easter either online only, or maybe not at all. Maybe there'll be some other means, but definitely not in person. I know that Richfield United Methodist, we're not. What was that like for you and your people as you were coming up toward that?
You know, Fargo First is the mother church of the Dakotas Annual Conference. It's been around longer than the Dakotas have been states. And they have never in their history had that happen. I can say that first Easter Sunday when we didn't get to worship was the toughest day in my whole pastoral career and for Fargo First. It was just odd. But at the same time, you knew you couldn't meet because you had that Red River there and you saw it and you knew we were inches away from losing Fargo and Moorhead. So, you know, it was the hardest day of my pastoral career, and I think the toughest day in the career of the church.
It sounds like because it was a piece of this bigger whole, it kind of gave some perspective. Like, it's not that we're not going to do Easter, it's that everybody in town can't do Easter, and it's because of what's happening to our entire community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know, there was some bonding going on with everyone at Fargo Moorhead. I mean, I still, in my office, Nate, I still have my shovel. I can't take it away. I don't know if it's post-traumatic stress, but it sits there with sand on it and that we shoveled with. But also right behind it is our United We Stand yard sign. And so people don't quite get it until they look hard. Like, does that say United We Stand? Yeah, it does. And so that did bond us. But at the same time, we could get through Easter Sunday because of that. But weeks and months later, a church that doesn't celebrate Easter, it just had this strange effect on us.
Hmm.
You know, we are an Easter people. We United Methodist are actually, you know, we're kind of Luther Methodists around here because, you know, Lent is such a big deal. But we are to celebrate Easter 52 times a week. But that doesn't take away when Resurrection Sunday hits the liturgical calendar. And just, I think the biggest effect was we were not able to come together and together tell the story that the tomb was rolled away. And in some ways, all those sandbags represented that tomb, and we didn't get to say to each other, they're going to go away, and the tomb will be empty. And it had long-term effects. And practically, too, not having Easter Sunday offerings, that's a big deal.
That is true. It absolutely is.
It's a big deal.
Well, and I mean, that's a valid thing that I think every church is thinking about. No matter how stable they're feeling, because Easter Sunday is often a very large Sunday of generosity amongst people for all the different kind of ministries that churches do. So, okay, you've had this experience. Many of us are going to have this. What can we think about for like lessons learned? Can you give me some glimmers of hope for what rallying might look like in the midst of this?
Well, what we learned at Fargo, and I think, you know, we learned it after the second flood. You know, the second year is when we really started to learn from the experience. And the number one thing we learned going through that was build in your church a care system that is caring for every member of the church, no matter if it's Easter Sunday or not. Every member needs to be reached out to, and every member needs to be reaching out to other members. And if a pastor is the only one doing it, the church will die. Yeah. And so we learned to have a great care system, but at the same time, we learned if we only cared for ourselves, Fargo First was going to die as well. And so we went into service. We had emergency pump teams. We had sandbagging teams. We had sandwich making. We did everything we could to serve our city and to help God save our city. And that got our people away from the woe is me. We're not gathering at a historic building. It really taught us that the church is its people. And when they were in service, it was great. What we then learned that year too is you got to celebrate Easter Sunday. And so the second Sunday after we could meet, we designated it Easter Sunday. And we did everything from lilies to choirs to brass. We did it all. The second Sunday we were back. What we did the first Sunday we were able to gather again together was have a Remembrance Day, where we remembered some of the heroes that we lost in the fight. And we remembered how we served. And so at Brooklyn, we're going to do that. This first Sunday that we can gather together in person, we're going to have a Remembrance Day and to remember the fallen. I don't know about you, but the news of 120 to 240,000 dead has hit us, and I'm sure everyone listening, like, oh, it's just devastating. And so we're going to come together that first Sunday we can gather together and have a remembrance, a Memorial Day, and honor the heroes. Honor I have a 94-year-old I talked to last night, and she's made over 50 masks already, complete with filters to stick inside. So we'll honor that. But the second Sunday we gather together, we're celebrating Easter. The choir's been put on notice. The florist knows that second Sunday our lilies can arrive. And so we just learned that idea that you have to do that. And the only other thing I'd add to that, Nate, is when this is all done, after a month or two, clergy and lay leadership need to take a break. You need to get away, and you need to take your anxiety stick with you and work it all out, because it is with us all. It is high stress and high maintenance. You're trying to take care of everything. I'm trying to be a special education teacher. I have now learned that I'm going to do everything in my power to triple my son's special education teacher salary, because I'm really bad at it. And so you got to take a break when all of this is done, and take a leave and decompress it all. And that's what I learned from 3 out of 4 years of floods in Fargo-Moorhead.
Right. Well, I appreciate all of that. I like the part about the break too, but I think,
there you go.
I'm saying that mostly joking, but I mean, it is absolutely true. Like a good break after all of this will be good. And we don't know when that will be. We're thinking about, we're going to do a Resurrection Sunday at some point. We probably won't do it as soon as you are. I like that you're doing it soon. I think we're going to wait until there's I don't know, maybe in the fall or something near that Sunday time, or if we have an MCCI Sunday weekend, something like that, to kind of with all the gusto of Easter to do that. But I love that idea about almost the memorial or the remembrance or the thanking God for the people who have been heroes in this, and to remembering those who we will all collectively lose together.
Yeah, Nate, at Brooklyn, we have so many people in the healthcare business, especially primary care of people. I can't even count the number of people that I have working in assisted living places, nursing homes, rehab centers. We need to, when it's time, gather those people together and celebrate the sacrifice and service they made for the kingdom of God. They're working really hard out there, and to pull them together and let their church remember and celebrate what they did is going to be vital.
I love that, because as clergy, we're always trying to help people find ways to live their faith everywhere, or to see, well, how can I take my faith and transfer that into what I'm doing? I think sometimes people go, well, if I'm living my faith, then that means I'm trying to proselytize or convert people. But living your faith is living out the ethics and values that God's laid on your heart. And by going out there and serving in these essential roles, that is living out your faith.
Yeah, definitely. And our people see it that way too. I mean, they see themselves as being part of their discipleship, following Jesus right now is getting out there and serving as best they can, whether it's making a mask, serving in their assisted living site, being a nurse. They see it that way. And the church, I mean, we are to celebrate what God is doing through our people.
So I'm hearing the solidarity and the suffering. We're all in this together. Easter is coming, whether it's by the calendar or by when we're able to do it, or both. Easter's coming, and it's worth celebrating our heroes and honoring our people. I love that. That sounds very Easter to me.
Yeah. We are going to try to have Easter Sunday. I mean, back when I was doing flood days in Fargo-Moorhead, there wasn't online worship. And so we will online worship in Brooklyn. It was
like 30 pixels, and it was...
Yeah, that's right. It was, yeah. And I wasn't smart enough to do it. But we're going to do all three of our services. And I haven't broke the news to Pastor Henry yet, but he is doing the Easter sunrise service still online. It was his year to do it. And so we're going to do all four services. But we're also going to, our FM transmitter just got here. Amazon has come through, and we are going to try at our 9 and our 11:30 service to actually have old-fashioned drive up and popcorn. You got to bring your own, but we're going to give it a try so that at least some of our people can gather together and keep their social distance. But we're going to give it a try on Easter Sunday.
I have heard about these drive-through services, or like a drive-in, rather, like a drive-in movie. And I'm thinking about how we could do that. It won't be for Easter, but I think there might be a way to do that down the way. So stay tuned, Richfield. So Pastor Rich, thank you for all of that. Yeah. I wonder, will you stick around for a quick game? I got a game to play with you. So if you could close your eyes for a quick second so that you don't accidentally see the trivia going on.
Sure.
So friends, it's April Fool's Day. And I thought it'd be really interesting. Okay, Pastor Rich, you can look again. I thought it'd be interesting to have a Bible trivia quiz based on the word fool, since it's April Fool's Day. So, Pastor Rich, I've got 3 phrases up here for you. And I got to tell you right off the bat, I am not a Bible memorizer. I'm not one of those people who can tell you, well, as it says in Ezekiel, I can't do that. So I had to look these up. But I'm curious, can you, between these 3, decipher which 2 phrases are actually from Proverbs? So I'll read them out loud here. Number 1, the tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouths of fools pour out folly. Number 2, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And 3, who is the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 1 and 2 are from Proverbs.
You say 1 and 2?
That's my guess.
Okay, number 1 is from Proverbs 15:2. Number 2 is Proverbs 13:20. You are correct.
You
the third one is from the book of Kenobi, chapter 17:32. Obi-Wan Kenobi says this in Star Wars at the 1 hour, 7 minute, and 32 mark. On Solo. So congratulations, you got that one right. So all right. Thank you so much, Pastor Rich. Good to have you aboard.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Here. All right. So I'm going to mute him and take back over. There we go. So as we wrap up, I'm going to see if I can move I have a second screen over here, and I'm going to move that over so I can try to see some of your comments. Someone said 151 emails. People are joining in. Good to see you. Just seeing if there's anything to respond to there. But make sure you can leave your suggestions for next week's Sneak Attack Pun. Something I would really recommend to you. Let me get out my screen share one more time here. Should have just kept it up from the pop quiz with Pastor Rich. Here it comes. So I would love to recommend to you John Krasinski's Some Good News Network. John made his own at-home video, and he has lots of amazing stories of people doing outreach and just sharing love out there. And it's a wonderful show that he made. So I encourage you to watch that. And it has a fun office reunion between him and Steve Carell as well. There it is, 44. I have now 44 unread emails in my inbox. Last week it was 40. I responded to many, almost all of them, and then a few more came up. And also like 10 or 15 more came even since I set this thing up. So we're getting there, friends. Thank you for your patience in the middle of that. All right. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you had a good experience. I'm Reverend Nate Melcher of Richfield United Methodist Church. In-person worship is still suspended. We are live streaming worship Sundays at 9:30 a.m. at a special time, and that will include Easter. And we will also have some streaming worship on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday at 7 o'clock. That's the plan. And someday, when we are able to meet in person again, we will have a Resurrection Sunday after we've been able to meet for a while and feel that we have a safe ability to go ahead and meet. So, friends, I'm going to give you a benediction, which is a fancy word for get out there and share God's love. Get out there and share God's love. Go and serve God with faith, justice, and joy. And as our band leader, John Wesley, would say, the best of all is God is with us. All right. Thanks, friends. Bye.